Heart of the Chart. My name is Karen. I'm an astrologer, a Reiki master, and a Seraphim Blueprint teacher. Those last two are energy modalities, and today I am going to offer a heart healing energy along with the video. If you'd like to receive that, just be open to it. If you wouldn't, just say no thanks. All astrologers are different. There are different systems, different modalities. I'm primarily a psychological astrologer, Western psychological astrologer. I also utilize evolutionary astrology, medical astrology, locational astrology, a few other techniques. Also my intuition. I'm going to show you today how I synthesize or put together the pieces of a chart to get to the heart of the chart. And today we're going to take a look at Donald Trump's chart. So let's get started. So to start at the beginning in an astrological chart is the cusp of the first house on the far left-hand side. It's called the ascendant or the rising sign. That is our personality that we project out into the world, the persona. It's also the way we view the world. Donald Trump has Leo rising, and Leo in its finest expression is warm-hearted, generous. It rules the stage. It's the father figure. I'd give you the shirt off his back. It's warm. It's a fire sign, you know, and fire signs rising. Just blow sunshine. He has the fixed star Regulus right on his ascendant at 29 degrees of Leo. Now, that's like a very special placement. It's one of the 4 king stars. It guarantees a rise, and one is born feeling like one was born to be king, like one is special and one is born to be king. Extremely beneficial. There's a couple of caveats. One, there's a warning against excessive pride or ego, and a warning against particularly seeking revenge. Those types of behavior can cause a fall from grace, even with the king star. So whatever rules the sign on your ascendant rules the chart. And in this case, it's the sun in the 10th, and we'll talk more about that. Just to say a couple more things about Leo rising. I'm thinking of comedians, you know, because it's that person who can just like put that sunshiny energy out there. But physically, it tends to lean towards a reddening of the face. I don't know if he flushes when he gets angry, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did, especially with Mars right above the ascendant like that, adding more punch to that. So the first house is your personality, but also your physical body. So when we look for things like health, we look at the first house and the 6th house, okay? And so the ruler of the first house, and actually the entire chart, is the sun in the 10th. And Leo and the sun rule the heart and the spine, okay? And his sun is in Gemini in the 10th house. It is conjunct the North Node, sitting next to, conjunct the North Node, and also the planet Uranus. So to have the ruler of the first in the 10th is someone that needs to rise in their career, needs to be seen as important, needs to be in the public eye. Conjunct Uranus in a different, rebellious way. Uranus rules, well, it rules genius. It rules, you know, that quicksilver out of the blue kind of energy. If you're familiar with the tarot, it would be like the Tower to have that kind of energy. And of course, it's in Gemini, which is all about communication. So he needs to communicate. It is opposing the moon, so he was born on a full moon, but not just on a full moon eclipse. And the reason that I say that is because he has the nodal axis, the north node conjuncting his sun, the south node on his moon. So there's a karmic relationship there with the parents, because the sun is yourself, is your ego, right? Also represents your father. The moon is your emotional nature and what you need to be okay emotionally. And then it also represents your mother, how you viewed your mother. And to have the karmic axis sitting on the sun and the moon, yeah, there's a karmic relationship there. But it's, to have Regulus on the ascendant and born at a full moon eclipse, it's really significant. Let's see. As far as the physical health goes, to have Uranus next to the sun, it's like electricity. Uranus rules electricity, so I don't know if it's such a thing to have like too much action going on with the heart. But yeah, a lot of nervous energy, probably an inability to sleep. I think I heard that he does have an inability to sleep. There's just too much energy going through him is what that comes down to. The second house is traditionally the house of money, but it is more broadly, it's our values, it's our resources, it's our sense of self-esteem and self-worth. He has Virgo on the cusp of the second house, and the ruler of that is Mercury up in the 11th, which is a public house. I think maybe he likes to talk about money, because Mercury is our communication, is what we talk about and how we communicate. Oh, he talks about deals. That makes sense. The planets in his second house are Neptune and Jupiter. Jupiter is considered the great benefic. It expands and gives wherever it is. So the idea that he was born into a family of wealth makes a lot of sense. Jupiter is where we feel lucky. And Jupiter can expand out as far as Saturn in the astrological world. Neptune is the other planet that he has in the second, and Neptune can expand out forever to infinity. So you'll often see Neptune and or Jupiter in the second house of people who've got a lot of dough. The drawback for Jupiter can be an over-expansiveness. Perhaps taking risks when it would be better to slow your roll a little bit. He's got some lucky aspects to it. He's got Jupiter making a positive aspect to that Uranus in the 10th house, and also the sun in the north node. But Jupiter trine Uranus from the 2nd to the 10th is, opportunities out of the blue, Uranus, that are beneficial, Jupiter, financially, second house. Right? So he's got that going on. Neptune in the second. Neptune is kind of nebulous, it's expansive, but it may leave a feeling of it never being enough, because it doesn't feel tangible somehow. That Neptune is square the ruler of that house. That Neptune is square or challenging his Mercury. So there may be some tendency to maybe not be truthful about the amount of money or where it came from or something like that. There's something nebulous around that idea of money for him. So I don't know. And then the other thing in his second house is Chiron, which is an asteroid, and it looks like a little key. The mythology around Chiron is a goddess, gave birth to a centaur, basically half man, half horse. She thought he was hideous, and so she abandoned him, and so that was the original wound for Chiron. And then later on, when he got older, he got wounded in the flank, and he went around to all these healers trying to get that healed, and he never got it healed. But he became an incredible healer in the process. So Chiron is called the wounded healer. It's where we're wounded in our chart, one of the places. And so there's some like karmic wound around money, around finances, or self-worth, there in his second house. The third house is brothers and sisters. More broadly, it's communication. It's short trips, it's elementary school, it's neighbors. He has Libra on the cusp of the third house. That is ruled by Venus, which in his chart is conjunct or sitting next to Saturn in the 11th house. Now, every planet in Donald Trump's chart goes back to that Venus-Saturn conjunction in the 11th house. His Venus is in Cancer, which is a water sign. It's the sign of the mother. It's Venus is how we love and how we want to be loved. And in Cancer, it's tender. It wants to snuggle. It wants to be loved up. And Saturn sitting next to it says, no, you're not going to get that. So there's an expectation with a Venus-Saturn conjunction that you won't be loved. And consequently, if you don't work on that issue, on that self-love issue, you grow up with a feeling that no one really loves you. You maybe don't trust people, and you don't know how to give love. So it's kind of sad. If you have that kind of aspect in your chart, then you need to do work around self-love and around self-esteem, because when I was talking about the heart of the chart, that's the heart of Donald Trump's chart, because every single planet through rulership, I can guide you all the way back to that Venus-Saturn in the 11th. It's kind of driving everything from a deeper psychological level. And so that Venus conjunct Saturn rules the third house. So I don't know, he may have been a bully in school, or he may have been off in a corner. He may not have gotten along with his siblings so great, brothers and sisters. He may struggle with communication sometimes, because the third house is communication. And that's that. The fourth house is home. It's our childhood home. He has Scorpio on the cusp of it, which suggests some intensity around the childhood home, right? The ruler is Pluto, which is power, manipulation, transformation, and it is hidden in the 12th house of the subconscious. But Pluto is very powerful. It can be traumatizing. So I don't know what happened in his childhood home, but he was traumatized. And it was that sensitive Venus in Cancer. He was more sensitive than he maybe should have been in that household. The moon's in a fire sign, the sun's in an air sign, suggesting more go-getters for parents, right? So his moon's in the 4th house, so he feels most emotionally okay when he's at home. But because it's in Sagittarius, it needs to be a big home. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, which again is expansion, is the great benefic. You know, big windows, bright sunshine, preferably a lot of square footage, right? And speaking of which, you know, about homes, the Leo rising, the colors for Leo are gold and purple, right? And I know he likes gold fixtures, but that would go along with that Regulus, Mars, Leo rising thing he's got going on. And again, the moon conjunct the south node. It just suggests a karmic relationship with the mother. The moon and Venus in a man's chart tend to describe the women that he will draw in, along with the sign on the descendant. And the moon in Sagittarius, among other things, rules foreign countries. And so 2 of his wives have been from foreign countries, so that's kind of interesting. The 5th house is children, traditionally, but it also rules romance, it rules games, it rules sports, it rules casinos, anything that we do for pleasure. It is anything we create. If we write a book, we would find it in the 5th house, right? A piece of music, we would find it in the 5th house. He has Sagittarius on the cusp of the 5th house. And that is ruled by Jupiter in the 2nd. So, and he, you know, as far as children goes, Jupiter ruling the 5th house suggests a lot of children, multiple children, not just one. So he'll probably have a lot of progeny, like grandchildren, things like that. But the ruler of the 5th and the 2nd, and it being Jupiter, it's not really surprising that he started a casino, because the gambling thing is kind of attractive to him. So it has Sagittarius on the cusp of it. It has Capricorn intercepted. And of course, his 2 older sons are both Capricorn. So the sun was transiting through his 5th house when those 2 were born. The 6th house is health and its service. It is day-to-day work as opposed to the career, which is 10th house. The sign on the cusp of it is Aquarius. It is ruled by that Uranus in the 10th, conjunct the sun in Gemini. So he, Aquarius rules things like varicose veins, the nervous system. Again, he's super high strung. It's in Gemini. So this could be some breathing issues potentially. He may have had asthma as a kid. I have no idea. But it's in Gemini. Gemini rules the lungs and anything we have 2 of. So the arms, the hands, that kind of thing. Yeah. The thing that's in the 6th house is not a planet. It's called the part of fortune. And it is exactly as it sounds. So his part of fortune is in the 6th house of service. So it suggests he could benefit from service, 6th house, to humanity, Aquarius. Okay, and then the 7th house also has Aquarius on the cusp. The ruler in the 10th, the 7th house traditionally is called the house of marriage. But also open enemies, because, you know, it's the same. But in his case, you know, Aquarius on the cusp of the 7th can be a tendency to marry quickly, divorce quickly, that kind of thing, because it's erratic energy. That's why Uranus is. Things that come out of the blue. Having the ruler of the 7th being Uranus up in the 10th, there's kind of an idea or a feel of, you know, my marriage partner needs to benefit my career in some way. The 8th house is called the house of sex, death, and taxes. Yeah. So Pisces on the cusp of the 8th, you know, he's someone who likes to merge. Yeah, was that too much information? But the ruler of it's in the second, so he may actually feel like sexual partners are property. Property's found in the second. That's a possibility. Yeah. And as far as like death goes, Pisces on the cusp of the 8th kind of suggests like going in your sleep, just kind of drifting away. Pisces being and Neptune being so nebulous and floaty. The 9th house is higher education. It's higher spirituality, philosophy. It rules the courts, law, journalism, foreign countries, right? And foreigners. And it has Aries on the cusp of it. And the ruler is Mars in the 12th, in the house of the things that are hidden. So he could have hidden ties with foreign countries, hidden legal issues. I'm sure he's got a lot right out front, but some we probably don't know about, I'm thinking. The 10th house is career, is our public standing, our public persona, if you will. He has Taurus on the cusp of the 10th, and Taurus is interested in worldly goods. Taurus is the natural sign that you would see in the second house of money, right? Venus, so that Venus conjunct Saturn rules his midheaven as well, right? It's like if I just fill it up with enough money, I'm going to feel better. At some point, I'm going to feel loved. Yeah. So Uranus in the 10th house is the potential for lots of change around your 10th house persona, around your public image. So lots of different businesses, which he's had a lot, I think. Yeah, there's that. The 11th house is traditionally called the house of friendships, but it's future goals, it's the public, things like that. He has Mercury there, so he does a lot of communicating. Venus and Saturn. Venus rules, love in the way we love, but there's some stunting with the Saturn there, so I don't know how many friends he has, but they might tend to be some Geminis, because he's got Gemini on the cusp of the 11th. He's a hard time trusting people. But I know like some of the people in the administration are also Gemini. Bill Barr is, and Mike Pence is. So there's some other Geminis happening there. What else did I want to say about that? Something, I'm sure. The 12th house is the subconscious. It's called also the house of self-undoing. The energies that we don't deal with in the 12th house can come back and bite us. And he has Pluto there, which is really powerful. It's like deep-seated psychological stuff, a deep-seated need for power that he may not on the surface be aware of, or he may, I don't know. The other planet there is Mars, which is our drive, our force out into the world. To have those two in the 12th is to need to like really deal with our stuff, what's going on. 12th house also rules hospitals, it rules prisons. It is the other side of the veil. So he probably has deep intuitive knowing. I think that he is a person who goes with his gut a lot, and that is probably related in part to that 12th house Pluto. I will say his chart looks really karmic, and not everybody feels like they're on a particular mission. They have their own mission. But Donald Trump, this Regulus on the ascendant, born on a full moon eclipse, this is not normal. And his chart if you drop it on the chart of the United States and you look at the connections there, becomes even more of kind of an indicator that he is a catalytic personality that has come in to do exactly what he's doing right now. We're in the middle of a revolution astrologically, and I mean, look around. And Donald Trump is a part of that. And in another video, I'll talk about his current transits. And that was the short version. Okay. Have a great day if you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, share. If you have suggestions for someone that you'd like me to read on, if I can find their birth time, I would be happy to look at doing that. Have a great day.